is 7:48 p.m. and we're starting a project. Oh boy, that's what happens when you work all day and you gotta get stuff done during the week. As you can see, we got the 78 and tank. Alright, tank in the garage. And the reason being, oh, and the camper's off of it. So I want to address the brakes. This truck has always had an issue. When you hit the brakes, it'll kind of do one of these, like especially at higher speeds. But with the camper on it, it's noticeable, and I want the brakes as good as they can be with the camper on it. So I want to see if I can isolate the issue, if it's the rear brakes or the front brakes, as far as what's doing this pull thing. I should really drive it now. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that now. We're going to drive it now. Let's go for a test drive. Let's see if we don't run out of fuel. So you're looking at the driver's side rear tire there in the mirror, and when I hit the brakes, that rear tire will lock right up. So I know that that's getting full brakes. Too much. See that? And it pulls the truck. I'm not gonna be able to show you, but I'm gonna try and look myself on the other mirror and see if I can figure out if that one's locking up. I'll let you know. Oh yeah, it is. So they're both locking up. It's like it's not giving enough brakes to the front, it's giving too much to the rear. That's the observation we got. They're both locking up. That's good. That means they're both working, which is great. This is a side note, but the fuel gauge has not worked in this truck for probably 10 years. It just started working again. That is so rare that stuff like that happens. First step is to crack all the lug nuts loose. Now that I got the tire off, next step is to take out all of the axle bolts. Now that you got all the bolts out, now you take this, you slide the axle all the way out. But you're gonna get oil in your pants. See, it's already dripping. It's gear lube coming from the rear end. You want to grab the other side where the splines are with a rag, and you set that down somewhere so it doesn't get dirty, the splines. Set it aside. There's a snap ring right here. I think there's a key there that slides out, and then you take a little punch and a hammer and tap 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 and just loosen that right up. Watch other videos on how to do this, but that's what you do. So I got the snap ring out with the screwdriver. I got the little key out with a magnet, and then you use a ball peen and this punch, and eventually get it loose enough that you can just spin this right out like that. Alright, set that down. These things are worn and they got a lot of scoring on them, but yeah, we're gonna try and just replace the shoes, all the hardware, try and reuse those drums and see how they go, because getting new ones of those are not going to be the same quality anymore. We are back at it again. It's a new day. Back at it with the brakes. So it's funny because I actually watched one of my videos that I'll link to from I think 5 years ago or something, I don't know, going over the brakes last time I went over them, and it reminded me of what I did. So I really didn't do anything other than adjust them. I did find a location that will cut these drums, but because they're scored pretty bad, I gotta pull this hub assembly off and all the bearings and everything if I do that, and I've never done it. Not saying I can't figure it out, it's just I might just try and throw the drum back on there with it scored with the new shoes, and I'll replace all the guts in here and see if I can operate correctly, because I think it might be sticking because all of these springs and the lubrication points in the back of the shoes and everything are not lubricated. So I'm not gonna say sticking, but why it's hitting so hard. So it doesn't look like the wheel cylinders are leaking too bad, so that's good. I'm gonna dive into this. I have to get good measurements of the e-brake cables, so I'm just getting the rear cables because they need to be changed. You need to have the drums off to change them out. So I'm just going to change out the rear cables for now, and deal with the other ones later. But I want to see if I can get the rear brakes functioning the way it is with the drums not getting recut. And we'll see how that goes. So because I don't do this every day, when I pull springs off, I like to lay it out just like the best way that you pull it off, the best you can. I also take photos before and after, or before. But right now I'm in the middle of taking all this apart. Another tip is when you order brake shoes, they always come in 4, so it's for both sides. At least the vehicles I've ordered or done shoes for. And then the other thing is there usually will be a thicker lining and then a thinner lining. All the vehicles I've done, the thicker lining goes to the rear of the vehicle. So I got this out here. I got this pin pulled out, things like that. E-brake lever. And then here's the replacement for this left side. This is for the driver's side. So I'm gonna have to go through and replace all this stuff. See, all this stuff like that. So it's cool. I got a new adjuster, so that's really nice because I don't know. It's just nice having new stuff. It all should all function correctly. So I'm just gonna rip into all this. There's E-clips and stuff, and I'm not gonna show every little step, but this I'm gonna set the rear or the new shoe up with the new stuff. So quick tip, in order to get this pin into there, I needed to take a cutoff wheel. Okay, this is how I did it. There are all these little tits. I think they're all just little welds holding the bracket together for the actual shoe. Well, that one interfered with that, so I just took and cut that one off. So this bracket, which is the e-brake cable, goes into, and then it pivots here. Goes on this one. That bracket doesn't come new in the kit, so I'm just gonna wire wheel this real quick and just give it a real quick clean up and paint. So I just sprayed it with this rust reformer from Rust-Oleum. So I got it hanging here, and now I'll just hit it with a little MAP gas or propane torch just to kind of dry it quickly. So I busted the e-brake cable out of there. I couldn't get the clip to free up, so I just pounded it out of there, broke it, and I wire wheeled it roughly just to give it a little bit. And we're going to take some brake parts cleaner. Now that I sprayed that all down with brake parts cleaner, where the wheel seal mates here, I'm going to take a little Scotch-Brite and just kind of scuff it a little bit just to make sure it's nice. I'll go around that, wipe it off with a paper towel, and that'll be done. So I greased all of the points, the pivot points for the shoes. Hit it with a little bit of this rust reformer just because. This is the back side of the drum, and the bearings are in there with this wheel seal, and I got this seal puller. Just got this from Napa. Get under here and hit against the bearing and just go around. There you go. We are back from town. Here's the old e-brake cable. The closest one that I could find is 2 or 3 inches shorter, which is this one here, to the existing one. So we're going to try that one, and then here's the other one that I found that I just measured. I actually brought this string into the parts store because it was the right length of this black portion of the cable. And this one's also a couple inches shorter. This is the one with the threaded rod on the end. Let's just see if it works. They didn't really have any other ones there, so you know, you just gotta roll with what you got. So here you go. You can see the grease is there. Come here, Stink. Tanker. Take this. Just wipe that right off. Get that paint off of there, and then apply a little bit more of the grease, and you'll be in good shape. This is a cat in a box. Look at him in there. He's in the brake shoes box. What are you doing in there, huh? What are you doing? Look at him in here. At least you bring joy to the shop, Tank. Here's the old wheel seal. Took that out, cleaned it up, brought it there. Here's the new one. Has an extra thing here. So that's good. So I got both the wheel seals, and then I also got the metal axle flange gaskets. So we're gonna install new ones of those too when we're done. So what I'm doing is just taking a hammer here and just tapping this in evenly. But what I'm gonna do now is take this punch and use this brass punch and bop, 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 all the way around until it's all the way in there. I don't know how this e-brake is supposed to go, and then the spring hooks to that arm right there, right? So that's what happens. There's just a formed little notch in there that sits in. Well, that thing was just falling out. Like it would slip in there, but it wouldn't get tight. So I wrapped electrical tape around the cable portion of it, and then pounded that in there so that at least kind of stays in there. I don't know. I'm probably doing that wrong, but I'll figure it out. Finally got everything reinstalled. E-brake cables here. You know, this all functions. I'm gonna loosen it as much as I can right now, and then kind of always go like this, just to kind of make sure everything's sliding free. I hold on everything. Make sure it's all good. Put the drum back on, because now that I have the new seal on it, I can. Okay, so I got the drum on, I got the nut on, and then I have this socket here. That looks like PT brand W1270 2 5/8. It's a 6-pin one, and I didn't even know I had this. But anyway, I put that in there, and I think it's supposed to be like 50 foot-pounds, and then you back it off. But we're gonna see what happens. I'm not gonna use a torque wrench. I'm just gonna tighten it and then back it off a little bit, because you don't want constant pressure on there. I just tightened it like about 50 foot-pounds, and then I loosened it back to the next key spot, and I put the key in, put the ring clip back in, and you know, obviously I just keep spinning it to check it. Now, before you put the axle in is when I go in the back and I'll adjust the brakes just so they drag a little bit. Watch my other video, or watch some other video how to set brakes. I'm not a professional, that's just how I do it. Okay, I took this big screwdriver and used that to adjust the brakes in the back, and that's how much I have it. Okay, got the axle shaft in, and I just got these tightened. I tighten them like a wheel, back and forth even, and then I'll go around and torque them to 115 foot-pounds. Before, there you go. Gives you a good visual. Cobwebs, nice. Good morning. Next day, we ran into a minor issue. Here's the deal. We have a failed wheel seal, or wheel cylinder seal. Okay, that seal failed. I sprayed it last night with PB Blaster, the actual line. So let's see if that line starts twisting. I'm sure it will, because otherwise I gotta replace this line. Oh, she's twisting the line. Okay, that's what I suspected. Good morning. It is like a week later. Alright, so we got the truck still in the garage. We got this thing on all 4 tires. So I'm just gonna give you the rundown of what ended up happening. I didn't film it all. A friend came over and helped me, and we finished the job. We have 1 new brake line with 1 new wheel cylinder. We're gonna do a test drive and see how it acts. I did just zip tie the e-brake cables up. They're not connected, they're just zip tied out of the way so they don't dangle, and they're just out of the way. Warming her up. Okay, just got back from that little test drive there, and the brakes still are not correct. The rear passenger side keeps locking up first. I mean, I'm really hitting the brakes. It used to lock up right away, like way too fast. It was barely slowing down the front, and the rears will lock up. So it's a tremendous improvement, but they're just not adjusted quite right completely. I've heard if you like drive in reverse and hit the brakes, they should self-adjust with the mechanism in the brake within the rear brakes, but I did that a couple times. It didn't seem to really change anything, but what it did do is start making the fronts act up, and the truck started pulling towards the right a little bit, off and on. It was just inconsistent. So I haven't cracked into the front brakes in probably over 10 years, so it's time to at least check them out, lubricate them, potentially change pads. And I could hear this I think it was this right front kind of squealing a little bit when I was off the brake, so it was like hanging up. The caliper might have been hanging up, so I felt near the rotors both sides equally, and that passenger side front is a warmer than the driver's side front. So got the wheel off. You can see how nice these rotors are. Tons of meat on them. A lot of pad left on that side and a lot of pad left on the other side as well. So these are the wedge styles. You got to take this off, pound this wedge out. I kind of forget, but you definitely have to pound this wedge out. Okay, I am done. We're gonna do another test drive. What I did was I removed the brake pads, both sides, and I lubricated all of the slide points that I would think that the brake pads need to slide on the caliper brackets and on the calipers and things of that nature. These brakes are a little different than a normal, well, like newer style disc brakes where they have pins and then the whole caliper slides. It's a little bit different. So I lubricated where I think they should be lubricated, and I also compressed the piston of, there's only one big piston on the caliper, and I compressed the piston, and because that driver's side I think was sticking a little bit, so I felt that if I compressed the piston, maybe it would like break free where it's getting hung up maybe, and see where it is. So I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit, make sure we get good pedal, and let's go take it for a test drive and see how it drives. Took it for another test drive, and I wouldn't say that it was a huge improvement, but it wasn't any worse, which is good. It wasn't sticking or anything, so that's good. The rear brakes are still not adjusted correctly. I think we're just gonna leave it the way it is, but let's get the e-brake hooked up. Here's the e-brake situation. I did not change these cables. I'm not going to as of now. It comes from the cab and goes through this deal here, and then I have it in here, and then here's a little connector, okay? Then it goes into this doubler situation where then it goes, where then two cables will come in and then one cable will connect to the connector. So from here we have the first cable which goes to the driver's side, which then goes through and connects into the connector, and then the other one, here's the old one here, has this threaded rod on it, and then that goes all the way around, loops over the axle, well, and then it's supposed to go into the back of the passenger side wheel. Got the e-brake bracket out, might as well clean it up and paint it. Got the flap disc. So I ended up getting this all done from the beginning here. This is coming out of the cab, going back. I lubricated that with transmission oil. Got this, it's kind of almost tight right now. And then here's the new connection for the new cable going into this connector. Here's the black portion here, bracket, and then this is how much I have it adjusted right now. This cable is tight, so we're not allowed to go off any jumps, jack up the truck by the frame. It is only allowed to be loaded. But this is all flexible, it should be okay. But let's find out. And I got this one looped. I'm gonna go test it and see if it holds on the hill. It feels like the pedal is good. Engages halfway at this adjustment. I'm gonna put a little grease right here just so that slides, and then we'll keep going. Well, there you have it. There is the first test of the e-brake. I am impressed. That hill is steep. I mean, if I'm parking on a hill that steep, I'm putting rocks and all sorts of wheel chocks in front of it. We'll put it that way. And I had a good pedal. I had more pedal. I wasn't maxed out on the pedal, so I would say it's adjusted perfectly. It's not dragging. Well, that's gonna do it here for the Squarebody K30 brake video. We're done. I got the rear brakes adjusted as good as I'm gonna get it today. Really, I gotta drive down the road and maybe do some fine tuning, but other than that, I mean, they're working good. We're in good shape. Let's go on to the next project. See you in the next video.